June 1999, Kargil. Thin air, sharp rock, temperatures dropping below freezing. An enemy sitting high above. Indian soldiers climbing upwards, exposed, vulnerable. Every step visible. Every movement under observation. Every meter earned. Today, when we remember Kargil, we remember victory. We remember courage. We remember sacrifice. But before Tiger Hill, before many later successes, there was Tololing, a feature dominating the national highway, a feature that had resisted repeated attacks, a feature that had to be captured at any cost. The battle that followed would not merely capture ground, it would restore momentum, restore confidence, restore belief. Tonight, we revisit not merely a military operation, but leadership under impossible circumstances. Courage under fire, preparation under uncertainty, and decisions made when lives hung in the balance. To help us understand that extraordinary night, we are privileged to have with us Major General Sandeep Bajaj. During the Battle of Tololing, he served as the second in command of 2 Rajputana Rifles, the battalion that captured Tololing on the night of 12-13 June 1999 in one of the most defining battles of the Kargil War. A soldier, leader, and witness to history. Tonight, we go back to Tololing. This is Tipsy Talks. Welcome back. Today, we go back to one of the defining moments of Kargil War, the Battle of Tololing. A battle fought under extreme conditions, a battle that restored momentum, a battle that demonstrated extraordinary courage, leadership, preparation, and determination under fire. And to help us understand the battle better, not from history books, but from lived experience, we have with us Major General Sandeep Bajaj, who was serving as the second in command of 2 Rajputana Rifles during the Battle of Tololing. General Bajaj, it's truly a privilege to have you with us here today in the war room of Tipsy Talks, sir. Welcome once again.
Thank you, Tipsy. And once again, a pleasure to be back on Tipsy Talks. And absolutely a pleasure to be part of your podcast, listen to the wide variety. This thing, back to you.
Thank you so much. Now, General Bajaj, before Tololing became history, it was simply another impossible military problem waiting to be solved. The imbroglio of the Kargil War, where Indian armed forces did not know, where to head and where to actually make a headway into the consolidated positions, the lines which the Pakistani regulars and irregulars had adopted along the dominating ridge line. So, sir, when 2 Raj Rif was inducted into operations, what exactly was the situation? What was the predicament all around?
Tipsy, when 2 Raj Rif was inducted, if I could take a slight prelude to this, it was in city counter-terrorism operations for my civilian friends, about 200 kilometers down in the valley, operating in the Kupwara sector, part of 81 Brigade. So we heard over the news, that things were not good at Drass. I kept wondering what was there, how deep was the incursion, till we got our orders to move. So the predicament was that, what exactly are we going in for? Is it to, hold defenses, hold the road, or to actually go into actual battle? This was a predicament. Back to you.
All right. So when the Pelton received the orders for move, and of course, some bit of information would have trickled down from the higher echelons, exactly as to what is happening. You must have had a little sense. So how did the Pelton, disengage from the CICT grid, to which you had adapted pretty well? I can assume that the Pelton having operated there. And suddenly to, break away from that CICT grid and get back to its roots, actually what the infantry battalion is actually, trained and prepared for during the peacetime. How did the switch come about? How did the men take it? What is the mindset all about?
Very, very good. That's a very nice question, because it touches upon the essence of a battalion's preparation and how important it is for operations in high altitude. So we were deployed doing CT operations at about 5,000 feet, along the Srinagar, in the Srinagar Valley, somewhere along Kupwara. And the battalion had moved in from Gwalior. So, as you know, the grid, we establish as per a grid in counterterrorism operations. So a grid was established and we were operating in smaller teams controlled by companies or subunits or special operating bases. And basically gathering intelligence and combing the forests, the mountains, looking for terrorists, blocking infiltration routes. That was our job that we were doing for the last, I would say, 3 months. We had inducted in December 1998. We had moved the advance party. I had taken it. And the battalion fetched up somewhere around April. And in that 2-month period, we started doing our operations. We had a couple of successes. And, we were decentralized, moving independently, gathering intelligence. It was very satisfying to be in part operations in support of the Kashmiri population till we got our orders to move.
Right.
Once we got our orders to move, we realized now this is going to be much more serious and it's likely to be a conventional war, which we are going up for. So the officers got together and, we started telling our men that, look, now we have to refocus back onto our training that we've had, considerable training. I'd like to touch upon a point here, Tipsy. The Indian Army is highly professional, in its professional military education. And it endeavors to train all the people, right from the soldier to the junior leader, NCO's training academy, section commander's course, to the platoon commander, to the young officer, to the middle level officer. So we all have an understanding of what operations can be at the level that we operate in. Let's say a company commander or a platoon commander, he's got a very, very good understanding. So this training helped us to understand and to reconfigure ourselves going into the operations. And then we started inducting upwards into Drass via the Srinagar transit camp. It was quite a long journey, quite a difficult journey, because we kept meeting people coming back, wounded, some dead, not understanding the situation. So we were moving up with a lot of this thing that, what's happening there. Yeah, back to you.
So far, so good. So, General Bajaj, thereafter, let's say, the Pelton is moving in. You moved in through Drass, Sonamarg and all that route. Once you arrived at Kargil proper, let's say, sir. So, what was the scene all around? And you mentioned that naturally some casualties would have taken place already, and those casualties were being evacuated, and that would have had a telling impact on the mindset of people who are actually now going to the front to actually fight a battle there. So tell us a little bit more about that, sir. Well, what is the situation around? Where did you exactly go and lodge yourself? Did you have a temporary camp? How did the logistics fetch up to you? What kind of a briefing did you have? What kind of briefing did you give to your men? How did you prepare yourself for the impending operation? Please tell us more about that.
We moved up via the Srinagar transit camp, a famous place that it is, and moved up to Sonamarg. At Sonamarg, going along this road, it's a long and winding road, as they call it. Moving up, very cold. We met people coming back. You see, they had been launched into attacks without much information, preparation, coordination. The way it was initially, I couldn't blame the higher formations for it. We had to react. We reacted. So there were stories that there seems to be a very well entrenched, force deployed all along from, let's say, Drass right up to Mashko, right up beyond that. Almost an incursion of about 120 kilometers deep. This is what we could understand at the senior officer level. Senior officer, right. I would say, the 2IC of a battalion and upwards. So as we reached into Sonamurg, I took a decision and informed my CEO, the late Colonel Ravindranath, God bless his soul. I said, sir, we need to now insulate our battalion from anything that is coming from the top. We need to keep them engaged. We need to insulate them completely. So he said, these are wise words. And, we set up camp in such a way that we didn't really encounter people going up and down. And we only put our most hardened people, we only allowed them to go out of the camp, let's say to fetch some rations, to get some intelligence, whatever the administrative things or the other training or ammunition as we were building up. So we only sent our very, very trusted and trained men. And I briefed them that you will not come back with any information which is negative. Yes, we know that there is assault happening. It's not really going our way, but we will keep our wits about us and we will train and we will go ahead and get our objective. This was what we broadly did.
Right.
As we, in Sonamurg, about 50, 60 kilometers from where the action was at, we could see it happening on the longer axis. Right. We could see, we could hear the artillery shelling, some shelling. We could hear our artillery shelling, their artillery shelling. Small, explosions high in the mountains, in the ridges. And we knew that this is where the battalion will now be asked to attack, and we started getting ready for it. Back to you.
Right. So, as a normal battle procedure, the CO would have been expected to, go and meet the brigade commander. And the brigade commander would have given him the initial briefing and then would have possibly assigned him a target. As to that would be, the objective for the entire battalion. So tell us a little bit more about that. Where exactly did you meet the brigade commander and how exactly was your objective made known to you?
So our brigade commander was Brigadier Amarall, later Lieutenant General. He was in Drass. And he had his own very grounded way of calmly analyzing the situation. He called the CO up. I had fetched up because I was on leave. So I had fetched up maybe a day behind him. The moment I hit Sonamurg, we had, like I said, that we had discussed with the CO. Then the CO went up ahead to Drass. After that, I got a message from him that I should fetch up with him and be prepared to also recce. So when I met him there, the CO was in discussions with the brigade commander. And there was shelling going around from the Pakistani side, which was hitting the brigade headquarters. See, Tololing is a feature which was overlooking the Drass brigade headquarters. We, it was able to direct fire onto the headquarters, and the shelling was reasonably effective. So we all went in. There, Brigadier Amarall, the commander, before taking us in, just turned back and pointed upwards. He says, "You see, that is Tololing. So that is where you guys might be going." So that is our first clear inkling that we would be heading that side.
Right.
Then, famously, attack went in. This is somewhere around the first week of June. It did not completely go in because of the more than expected resistance which came its way. A battalion went in, 18 grenades. And it firmed in. 18 grenadiers firmed in, short of the objective by about 800 meters to a kilometer, and provided a firm base. So I remember the GOC coming in, Janakpuri, landing at Drass. And broadly, they were discussing this attack didn't go through. And then the GOC looked at my CO, Colonel Ravindranath, and quietly nodded his eyes, looked up and nodded his eyes. So that is the time Colonel Ravindranath also said, he nodded back. And that is actually how the objective was given to the battalion. Okay. The objective was that you will capture Tololing. RAJRIF will capture Tololing by the 11th of June was the first this thing. Finally, we captured it on the 13th night, 13th, 14th.
Right.
Back to you.
All right. Now, after the objective was very clear to the battalion, and I'm also told that intelligence was very, very sparse. It was absolutely rare, So how did, as per the battle procedure, the first thing to do is to know the objective and the enemy. So how exactly did the battalion gird itself to find out what exactly lay in front of them? What are the enemy positions? What weapons is he using? Are they regulars, irregulars? What is the state of morale, nature of defenses? Are they fighting from temporary positions or prepared fortifications? So please tell us a little bit about the intelligence gathering by the battalion prior to the attack.
Again, my mind goes back to my CEO, Colonel Ravindranath. A great soldier that he was. A great soldier. He passed away, unfortunately. Later, he retired and then unfortunately passed away.
Right.
He believed very strongly in doing the basics right. And that is a very saving grace. You see, I had mentioned earlier, the Indian military, I'm certain Air Force, Navy, our drills and our teachings are very exhaustive and very realistic. We realized, we used to think in those sand models, will it happen like this, will it not? During our JC course, Junior Command course, or the other courses, I just come back from Staff College. So will it happen like that?
Right.
Then when you're under pressure, these trainings, these discussions, these sand models kick into your mind.
Yeah.
That look, now you have to actually go in for life and death for the legacy of the battalion, the glory of the battalion, for our task given to us, for the uniform to wear. So let's get down to brass tacks and find out how to do this task. That is when the training kicks in. So firstly, I'll take for my civilian friends who would be listening to this podcast. So firstly, we sat down and looked up at the objective. Like I mentioned, Tololing was the furthermost, deepest, I would say, incursion by the Pakistanis onto our territory. It was a very vital objective in which, it had come on to the heights of the National Highway 1 Alpha, the main lifeline to Leh, Drass, Leh, or, Srinagar, Leh. That was the main lifeline. It's open only 5-6 months in a year. And it's snowed in for the rest. And, you have to sustain your forces in Leh Ladakh as well as on this axis. It's extremely vital. And they were sitting right on top. So we looked at it from a military eye, from our professional military education. And we analyzed that how would the enemy deploy across this complete mountain? How would I, if I was the enemy commander, what would I do? How would I plan it? How would I sit down? What would I do? With that, we started getting an understanding. We did the appreciation, as they call it. We got an understanding that he would deploy like this. Once we got an understanding that he would deploy like this, we, broadly then divided the features into various tactical objectives that could be held and would be held by what force and what would be the fortifications required to withstand an assault. Thereafter, we had a picture, in our mind. Now we needed to make certain that this picture is clear. We needed to recce it on ground. So Tololing had two approaches, the southwest approach, where I led two companies, and the southeast approach, where two companies went in with Colonel Ravindranath. So we decided that we will send our recce parties and we will recce these areas and probe enemy fire, observe it and come back, and then reconnect the dots with our appreciation. So we all went up. Extremely, extremely exhausting. You see, we were not fully acclimatized, though we had come in from 5,000 feet.
Right.
But now we were at 15,000. We were also, short of manpower. We didn't have enough maps of the area. And we had to move light. That means 3 to 4 people with, just your personal weapons moving up into these treacherous mountains at night with the enemy waiting to somehow catch you and also mutilate you. It had happened that murder you, torture you, whatever they did. So these are the thoughts that were coming into our minds. We decided we'll go in, we'll stick as a team, we will all fight together, we will not allow this to happen, we'll reach the objective. We went up. Fortunately, 18 grenadiers had strung out in our firm base. We had some assistance on the routes. We went up, we stopped there, looked around, got a feedback from their side. Then we went further to probe up ahead, fired at the places, and drew fire from the other side. As we drew fire from the other side, we could make out this is an automatic weapon coming up, or this is a small armed weapon. Wherever we found, broadly automatic weapons coming up, sustained fire coming onto us, we knew that this is a bunker of fortification, which had to be held minimum by half a section. That's about 5 to 6 men, or maybe a section, around it. And then we drew fire. We drew out our complete map. We came back. We came down to base to Drass, sat down, recovered, rechecked, redid the whole thing, got an idea that this is the possible deployment and these are the possible fortifications along the enemy defenses. We also came to realize the way the fire came, the way it was professional, it was heavy, it was supported by RT, there was no radio communication. We knew that this is not jihadi forces or terrorist forces as they were claiming, mujahids as they were claiming, whatever they were claiming. This is regular infantry deployed, well recceed, well deployed, and dug in properly for a good fight. Back to you, Tipsy.
Right. Please tell us, why was Tololing so important, for the entire Kargil War, and why was it proving to be so difficult to capture? Because, as you said, it just lay there in front of us. So, what was the difficulty? Why was it so impossible to go and capture it? Why did the earlier attacks fail?
Like I mentioned, it was the deepest incursion by the enemy, by the Pakistanis into our territory. It overlooked the National Highway 1 Alpha, which was a critical lifeline all the way up to Leh. Thereafter, it dominated the complete axis. It could look right further in case they deployed properly. They would have changed quite a bit strategically onto this area. So it was extremely important. We were not aware of the full depth, enormity of the incursions that they had done from all along, from Mashko right up to Ranskar. But this was the one that was quite visible, and the higher headquarters correctly thought that this was the first one that we should take, assault with all force. You had asked me as to why did the earlier attacks fail. So I'd like to say all infantry battalions are the same. We are trained from the same. We are from the same mother. All of us are the same. We train. We have our own ethos. And our legacy, our name, is extremely important to us. We can die for it. For the earlier battalions who had gone in, they could not get the complete success or the requisite success because they had gone in with still not full preparation, incomplete preparations, incomplete support from the RT side, not enough recce, not enough build up. Not a full understanding of the enemy. So we got all this as a feedback that, look, this is there. We took this feedback, and with this, we, started to train. So again, my mind goes back. I and my CEO, we sat down. I was the 2IC. We sat down. Okay, what do we need? He says, okay, you tell me. You've come back from staff college. Go ahead. I said, sir, we need to acclimatize. He says, yes, because, for my civilian friends again, acclimatization is critically important in the mountains. Critically important. You have to acclimatize. Otherwise, you will, have a medical issue or you might die on top. And then the effort of the battalion is divided. Do we attack or do we take him down? Though it's clear that we have to attack. But, so we needed our men to be fit, full, able to carry 30 to 40 kgs on their back, move up, without enough food, water. attack over a 72-hour period, which we had expected that it'll take, it'll be an entrenched war. So we needed our men to be fit. For that, acclimatization was critical. And the higher headquarters, the brigade headquarters, and the GOC, div headquarters, rightly understood this point. They were infantry guys who knew the full code operated in that area. They gave us our acclimatization. The second thing was RT support. Artillery is a critical arm, though in mountains, maybe not that effective because of the nature of the terrain. The peaks are very craggy. If you have a slight this thing, the atmosphere is very rarefied. The shells travel longer. It just goes across the crest of the further crest of the mountain and falls into a gorge. So RT was extremely important. We required it in great numbers. It had to be in a massive barrage, a massive crunch, as they call it. So we asked for the RT. Then we asked for time to recce. We recceed. We understood. We trained. We can touch upon that later. It would be interesting. I'll take 3-4 minutes on that. Right. We trained, and we also build up. Build up is important. What is build up in the mountains? You have to move ammunition. You have to move water. You have to move food. You have to have a place to fall back. You have to have your regimental aid post for your wounded coming back. You have to have your fire bases coming up to support the attack. You have to have your, RTOP, BCOP parties, forward observers there. You got to get your mortar platoon in. You got to get all these things right. And then you can truly support the assault of the foot infantry that will go into these mountains. One last point here. Mountains eat up men, the great saying that is there. High altitude, the ratio is 1:9. That means they had a company deployed. Our assessment was a company deployed all across with supporting weapons, mutually supporting weapons with minefields, because we knew minefields were there. Because 18 grenadiers had, unfortunately, 3-4 men, much more than that. They'd lost their feet and all to these mines which they put up there, anti-personnel mines in the mountain. So all of this was this thing. So we had to do our build-up, which was critically important.
So the way you're painting the picture, General Bajaj, now, is that the enemy had absolutely entrenched itself, made just short of permanent defenses on those, unscalable heights, very dominating heights, which were even dominating the lines of communication and the brigade headquarters and the headquarters of the other establishments which lay across on the Indian side. Now, how exactly did we go about softening these defenses before we launched the proper attack? Did the existence of the line of control, have an influence on this? Did it restrict the movement of, let's say, our Air Force? Because Air Force is very, very prominently used in softening our defenses before the attacks actually go in. So tell us a little bit more about that, sir.
Again, Tipsy, you being a military guy, that too from engineers, you know it better. The defenses were formidable. I'll take a second about the defenses. The defenses that we saw on top were well coordinated, well, designed. The bunkers were good. They didn't, have cement or something, but they had a kind of a chennai, and they had a kind of a way they had built it, which could actually withstand some shells and all hitting.
Right.
They had, overhead protection in terms of CGI sheets, long angle iron pickets, and they had put, proper rocks on that, or some kind of broken gravel in sandbags on top. So it was actually, they were very well prepared defenses. They also had minefields up ahead. They had thrown anti-personnel mines wherever they felt the approaches were. They were mutually supporting each other. They had deployed well. Their communication, we could not pick up any radio communication throughout. So they had line communication. So they were not exposed to this thing. So the enemy, to his credit, had definitely done his homework, and they had made good defenses. Now came the problem. How do we soften the defenses? So the higher formation did get in the artillery. The artillery, our Indian artillery, is extremely good. They were able to get sustained fire onto it. Also, wherever we could feel that there was a direct line of sight, the boffers came into play, shooting in the direct firing role. So they came into the say in the direct firing role, and with that, wherever we felt that we could direct a shot onto a bunker, they were firing. Even if they missed the bunker by 200-300 yards or 150 yards, the impact of a medium artillery shell landing 200 yards from you, 250 yards from you, shakes up everything, breaks your morale, breaks your coordination and your cohesion. So we used that. The grenadiers were there, the other units were there, which were in the fire base. There, this thing also supported us. Our mortars, unfortunately, could not reach. It didn't have the range to come in. We kept trying to move it up because it's very important to have your own mortars, and mortars are very effective with the shells coming directly down. And also relentless fire from our side, from the MMGs coming in. But we had seen the objectives. We trained for it. We made teams, bunker busting teams actually, to assault the bunker. We had those bamboo shaped charges, put up ahead. You're the engineer guy. You can tell me the exact this thing. Made by the engineers for us. And we had teams trained that, they will fire up this chap if he can lob a grenade and find he'll put this, explosive IED in a way on a bamboo stick right through the hole and try to blow it up. So we trained our men. I'll come to the training later. It's a very important facet.
Right. Right.
And this was the softening up phase. Yeah, back to you.
So, General Bajaj, one thing which very prominently emerges from your description is that this was not an overnight, incursion and occupation of heights to harass the enemy, right? It seems to be an absolutely well-planned, cold-blooded operation, which possibly would have taken a year to 2 years in preparation, and it was carried out very, very clandestinely to the credit of the Pakistanis. And the way they had come up and prepared those wonderful defenses, as you're saying, well-coordinated defenses, that is the best form of the best state of defenses that a defender can have. Please tell me, how did the terrain, facilitate their movement? Because the terrain on our side is extremely rugged. Just to reach those heights, and there being no cover of anything, cover from sight, cover from fire. How did the enemy manage to, outwit us this time with such well-prepared defenses on right on top of our heads? Please tell us a little bit more about that.
First, as soldiers, we cannot hide our failures or setbacks. Yes, this was a failure. Yes, it was an intelligence failure. We should have picked it up at a higher level. Much higher level. Let's say, this. I'll just give an analogy. The CIA couldn't pick up our nuclear tests experiments, which happened. It was a failure on the CIA's part, and heads rolled. Yes, it was a failure on our part. We should have picked it up right in Pakistan at the macro level. Something is happening, and then we should have picked it up at the lower level, the border level, where intelligence flows both sides. That, look, this is happening. A lot of people are coming. Then we should have picked it up with our probing, our long-range patrols. We should have picked it up with our aerial recce's. We should have picked it up with some light shining on the ridge line. Why is it shining? How can it shine? What is there? So so many things were there, which we definitely did not do properly. There's no shame in hiding our failure. And for the Pakistanis, it was a very well planned incursion, a tactically brilliant incursion. However, strategically, it was definitely a failure because we would react. And Indian Army is well known for, reacting violently. And the reaction on the Kargil front was a division at the maximum. And we were able to do what we did is well documented.
Right.
So, yes, we will assault. Yes, we will go in. It was a tactical, brilliant, brilliant occupation from the Pakistan side, but they didn't think it through. They also had, supply chains coming in, all along the Mushko, mules coming up. We should have picked it. We didn't pick it. It's well documented. It's well spoken of. Lessons have been taken and lessons have been learned. So back to you.
Excellent. If I summarize from whatever we have discussed till now, I think this kind of an operation in today's high-tech environment is well nigh impossible on both sides. To go absolutely, unnoticed and unreacted is a thing of the past now. Well, now we move on to, a few days preceding the actual attack. That is, I think, around 9th night, because the objective was to be reached by 11th. So what preparations preceded the attack, General? What are the rehearsals? What are the coordinations done? How did the logistics and every other bandobast tied up? And more importantly than that is, how did the troops prepare themselves, or how did the leaders prepare the troops for what lay ahead of them, sir?
So, each battalion has its own strengths. Weaknesses, yes, but we look at strengths. Weaknesses we tackle. My battalion was, 50% Rajput, 50% Jat. What a brilliant combination! A God's gift to a commanding officer. The Jats were, very strong, foolhardy. No, very intelligent, and good operators. Good guys. They knew that. Very brave soldiers. And our Rajputs were equally good. The Rajputs were technically more skilled also, better at the MMGs, the company support weapons, the various, battalion support weapons that support an attack. So we had a very good combination. Also, our people are from, my people, that is the Jats and the Rajputs, are from a very hardy stock. They're Rajasthan, Chambal, then Haryana, part of UP, at times right up to, right into eastern UP also. So this is our belt. This belt is of men who are physically extremely strong. They're extremely strong. Maybe now as time goes by, things might change, but our men are extremely. If you see India's successes in sports and all, quite a few are from Haryana. You have to grant it to them. Quite a few are from Rajasthan also. They're from all over the country, like let's say Manipur also. But our men are very hardy. So we were blessed, very strong mentally, no fear, very good technically, with weapons, understanding, small arms, fieldcraft, battlecraft, platoon level tactics. There's a brilliant book in the infantry, section leading platoon.
Right.
You must have read it. I've read it. Brilliant. These guys knew it backwards. They've the section commander, the platoon, they knew everything. Whatever they had to know in mountains, they knew. So we took them, and then we started giving them the objectives. Okay, this company goes here, this company goes there. We started formulating the attack plan. And in the attack plan, we did not give too much information because that would, but we gave whatever information is required, 1 up or 2 up. And then we started training our sections to acclimatize, 1. Thereafter, acclimatize with load, 2. Acclimatize with full load weapon, 3. move as a section, then assault as a section, and then, how do you assault right up to the objective or the bunker and put in that this thing, the that ID explosive or the grenade or whatever you have to put in. That was there. Then we also saw the terrain. We walked up because I also had to acclimatize. Everybody had to acclimatize. So we were up and down with them, coming down, working out. Also a tot of rum, every night, second night, once in a while. They're hard to keep things going. And we kept seeing the terrain as it presented up in the mountains. Now, Tipsy, you also been on these heights. The terrain is extremely craggy. So if there is a enemy section sitting about 100, 200 yards from you, you can close into it. He cannot get a direct line of fire on him because of the way the terrain is there. So this is the way the terrain plays out. We saw this. We knew that if the section is well trained enough, it can move along and it can then use this terrain to its advantage. 1:9 is the figure in favor of the defender and high altitude. This was super high altitude. Yes. But this was to our advantage. So we used this, we trained, then separately we planned our logistics, movement, ammunition dumping. So everybody came into play. The infantry battalion is very well structured. 4 battalions, supporting platoons, supporting this thing. Then there is a logistic, this thing, quartermaster platoon. It's got the correct structure to support an attack in the mountain. That's what happened. So we use that structure to finally train our men. Small arms is one thing, grenade lobbing is the other thing. Battlefield nursing assistant training, BFNA training that they call. You get a shot, you got to put that FFD, the first field dressing, onto yourself. Or your buddy can put it onto his buddy. Because there's nobody else. So it's life and death. Even a small splinter can get you. If you cannot staunch it down there, you'll bleed out. So everything done. This is the training that we did. We also did mental conditioning.
All right.
We explained the objective. Look, if you do this, use the terrain to your advantage, you can close into the enemy. He can't see you. Then we also explained to them, look, this is the artillery deployment coming up. This is the amount of ammunition that we moved up. This is what is coming into your support. The Air Force had also started moving in. We had got, by that time, that was the second attack actually. But we had got the Mirages coming in also. So all of this put together, we were able to give our sections, our section leaders, our young soldiers, confidence that this task can be done in this way. That we are here, again, Colonel Ravindranath's word, hum marne aaye, marne nahi aaye.
Right.
Back to you.
Okay, I think excellent preparation, and it's good that the Paltan got a little bit of preparatory time to actually hone up all its drills and battle procedures, and then move on.
That was to our advantage,
which has now become history. All right, General Bajaj, I'm also told that two RAJRIF carried nearly 2 centuries of history, that the battalion had never failed in any attack. Now, please tell me very honestly, did that legacy become an inspiration or pressure at this particular juncture?
No, call it whatever you will. But a person will be damned if he fails an attack. In the unit, this is our legacy. It goes by the name Ever Victorious. We have never, ever failed in an attack in our lives. We might have failed in something else, chota mota, some discipline problem here, something there. But generally, the battalion's got its drills right. And it has got this motivation that, look, we cannot be the first people to have this black mark onto us for the rest of our legacy, history, kitne janam aage, jo bhi hai. How can my attack have failed. So this was a very big thing. 200 years legacy going in. 2 centuries. Yeah.
2 centuries, yes. All right, General Bajaj, I'm not going to disturb you for the next 8 to 10 minutes. Please take us through the night of 12-13 June and give us the entire, detail and nitty-gritty of the entire attack plan and the actual fight which took place on that night.
So Tipsy, I'll go back. Before we attack, it's always covered dushman ki. So we assessed that the enemy had a company on top of Tololing. That Tololing was a large, we called it Tololing complex. It had a southwestern approach. It had a southeastern approach. Each approach was from 10,000 feet, that is the Drass base, or 9,000 feet. And it was about 6,000 to 7,000 feet or 5,000 feet upwards. And broadly, in most ways, the enemy would be able to see us coming up because they had their observers well deployed. We felt that broadly it had 2 main complexes. The 4590 complex, which also included the Barbad bunker, and the Tololing top complex. So this was southwestern was the 4590 complex. The southeastern was the Tololing top, and in between there was a hump where we assessed that the enemy had a platoon deployed, and he would move it for reinforcements to either of the 2 features. So this was the attack plan. I'll not dwell too much into the technical details as my civilian friends are here. So this is what we formed up with. We decided that we will attack with 2 companies each on both the axes. So the CO went with 2 companies onto the southeastern, and he led the attack onto the southeastern axis. And I, as the 2IC, led 2 companies on the southwestern axis. My job was to go in, attack earlier with ferocity, and this would then move the platoon from the hump, which is, you see, there is a peak here, and then there's a flat area in between. So I went on to the southwestern peak, attacking first by an hour, and expecting that they will come, that the enemy will think that we have come onto this side of the thing and lift the platoon from there. We had planned the moment he lifts that platoon from there, our platoon would go and sit inside. A platoon of, I think, Charlie Company would go and plonk itself in between. So we would split the enemy. This was, well thought out amongst all of us, but credit where it is due. The plan was made by Colonel Ravindranath, who passed away, unfortunately. God bless his soul. So, he had his wits about him on these issues, and definitely it worked. So before coming to the attack, this was the plan. So we built up. We crossed the. We had a time. A personal take from my side. Sitting bitterly cold, bitterly cold. It's very cold even in June. Bitterly. So, as every soldier, we try to keep our feet slightly dry, especially moving up in the mountains. So I said to myself, as we move up, I'll try to negotiate the streams that flow down and keep my feet dry. So the first stream, just about 300-400 yards from my base, I put both feet inside the water, cold water, and it was chilled. I said, "Chalo, now nothing can be, nothing is worse." This was what I was apprehensive. This has happened. Let's move. So we moved along the valleys, going upwards, moving upwards to the objective, hugging the side of the valley where we knew the enemy shells couldn't land onto us. Because, they had the valley well registered. They knew we are moving up. So they started doing their shelling to things, but we hugged to a side, and fortunately we reached up. So it took about 8 to 9 hours. We started in the morning, 8 to 9 hours to reach up. We met up with 18 grenadiers. We went to the firm base. We had a good look at the objective before the night and understood that we have to move in this direction. Then there was a plan for the RT to come in to give it a crunch that they'd never seen before. They gave it. In this, I had a small, plan from my side which I had given, which was taken in positively by the RT commander. It is that we had noticed that as we had gone in, the enemy, to escape the direct shelling of the shells hitting them on the very constricted ridge line, had gone back to the reverse slope of the ridge line, and the shells had missed. So the shells came, but the shells missed. So we decided that we will give a barrage a crunch, which will look as if the attack has come. Then we will make a battle cry, noises and whatnot, Bajrang Bali ki jai, and we will move and stop. So the enemy, whoever is in front, will say, okay, the attack is coming, and come back. So the enemy came up back onto the mountaintop, onto the tabletop of the village or whatever this thing was there, into their bunker. And then came the second crunch from the artillery. This also shook them. But to the credit of the Pakistanis, we couldn't really find much dead. Either they were vaporized by an artillery shell, or actually we couldn't find much this thing. So they had planned. They knew that this would come, and then we attacked. In the attack, once you give the objective, once the men are beyond the fear, it's like entering a boxing ring. Apprehensive, wo fail dega, kar dega, or he'll hit me. Once you're inside, you say, let me get this guy. Yeah. So once these guys had moved from the mountains, from the FUP, it's a line in which we cross, the forming up place we cross, and they had started attacking. Then there was no fear. I didn't see any men sitting, hiding. I was the 2IC. I had to stay. There were two company commanders ahead of me. I'll just bring out again a personal thing from myself. I carried a AK-47 throughout, but in both the attacks, I didn't fire a single round. I didn't have to. This was my job as the second in command of the battalion, was to ensure that the attacks go in. It was not to fight physically. I didn't fight physically. But the attacks went up and went up ahead. And I kept pushing them from the back, seeing what is moving up, what is not moving up. We had the radio on. Another very good feature, very critical to us. The enemy could not disrupt our radio communication. We were our ANPRCs. It's actually a American World War II kind of a radio set which we carry. It lasted. It had an anti-jamming mode. It had those skippers. It lasted throughout. We were in communication to these smaller sections. I was in communication. That is such a critical thing to us. I was in communication with the CO. So his attack came. My attack came. My attack went, slightly earlier, as was the plan. We also got, Sunday I realized that I am there at a point where I could see the Grenadiers 2IC's body, Colonel Vishwanathan, it was there, and the two people with him. He was assaulting, he got shot and died there. Now I realized I'm very close to the objective. So then we kept moving up. We saw the fire. The fire directed us, their fire, the muzzle blast and all. That broadly gave us an understanding as to where the enemy is. I saw the men closing in. Wherever I felt the pressure had to be put, I tried to shout loudly. The enemy had done well. They had sighted them with mutual support. And, that means there are two bunkers always supporting each other. or more than two. Plus, they had their drills worked out. Our soldiers were also very, very good. They moved in. They used the terrain to their advantage. And their supreme fitness. You see, this is also a great thing. Their supreme fitness. Just imagine moving in from the last 10 days on the move, yet they were able to move up in this extreme cold. They're all from the plains of India, not mountainous. Adapt to the mountains, adapt to the altitude, and then come in and carry out this assault fearlessly. So this is how good the men were, and how good it was. The various teams, sub teams went on to the bunkers and closed in and started assaulting them. So I remember vividly, we expected that with our weight of attack coming onto them, we expected a counter-attack would come from the Pakistani side. Like I told you, there was a feature hump. And yes, the counter-attack came. So, in our teachings, like I mentioned, our professional military education, in our teaching, it was mentioned that the Pakistani forces would launch very speedy local counterattacks. Very, very speedy. And it happened. So I remember a very airy sight which will stay with me for the rest of my life. They were, coming as a counterattack, the Pakistanis. Some were in uniform. Some were in pajama kurtas, with bulletproof jackets, helmets on top, weapons with them. There's a kind of a pouch that we wear to put our ammunitions in there. Boots they were wearing. And they also had with them, gas masks. Maybe they expected that there would be some kind of attack onto them, which of course India doesn't do. But they had these gas masks. Maybe it is from the smoke that was coming out from the various explosions. So this eerie sight, I remember them coming in fast. Then I remember now it was on more even ground because we had reached that height. And they were attacking us in a way to dislodge us. So this battle went on. I kept seeing my side attacking, moving up the other company. And finally, the attacks, the enemy firing stopped. Now, this was a very momentous moment for me. For the battalion, not me, for the battalion. Suddenly, we realized that we are onto a feature, and we have, done attack. We have gone through the attack, which actually would change the war. We didn't realize it, that this would be the turning point. So here is the job of the officer again, the senior officer. So not letting emotions come into place, expecting enemy artillery fire onto us. Expecting another counterattack coming in. I had to disperse the men. I dispersed the men, ensured they, wherever they could, they took cover. And to see if any of the Pakistani soldiers' remnants were there. So they went about their task. It's, on top, it is very laborious. It's very slow. You're always out of breath. You're always speaking. You can't speak coherently on the radio. You'll always stop, say something, stop. In between, Vivek's Major Vivek Gupta, Mahavir Chakra, his radio had stopped. So, then we tried to get his radio operator, we couldn't get. He was coming up with the CO. I realized at least one of our officers is seriously injured or down or dead. Unfortunately, he died. He got a Mahavir Chakra. He, with the CO, launched, the CO was behind slightly, but he launched his company, Charlie Company, and they took Tololing Top. So Tololing Top, the southeastern peak was taken. 4590, the southwestern peak was taken. We had a platoon sitting in between, cutting out the enemy. Now we started realizing that yes, we might have taken Tololing, but being a very OG conservative battalion, I met the CEO. He came up. We linked up on top. It was, it's a meeting again, etched forever. So we are both very businesslike. He said, "You tell me, is your company, is your objective secure?" I said, "Sir, I've walked around it. I've seen it. I've deployed my men. It is. We were still getting fire from 5140. I said, "It is now from my side taken." He says, "This is which bunker?" I said, "Sir, this is Barbad bunker. This is Barbad bunker that we had made." Then he realized that this shoulder is taken. He had come from Tololing top. He says, "Tololing top is taken. Vivek is dead. Don't tell anyone." I said,
Okay.
Now we could have given. We were, under queries from the brigade headquarters. Come on, tell us. Have you got the objective? We waited. Deployed the men, readjusted the defenses to now face an enemy attack coming on to us. Saw the whole thing, saw that the guys are in the bunkers, ensured that through the BCOPs that the fire, as it is not the plan, but the fire had shifted, the artillery fire had shifted full time onto 5140 and the adjoining heights which could interfere with us. Right. With all that done, now we knew that it is done. So the CEO took a recce, I took a recce in our things carefully, because there was unexploded ordnance just out wherever the snow was. The white limpet mines were there. The white anti-personnel mines were there. So we walked along, and the fire was coming onto us. Also, one of our shells put shot fall onto us. Got the reorg done. Walked around, saw the defenses. Put our soldiers into the bunkers. Now we started organizing our defenses to repel any Pakistani attack that came in. Right. And we saw the extent of our casualties. We had quite a few casualties, including Major Vivek Gupta, Mahavir Chakra. So with all this, we were expecting a barrage coming in from the Pakistani side, sniper fire from 5140, and maybe a proper counterattack coming in. So these were the things on the mind at that point. CEO being very conservative and correct in his military way, God bless his soul, he went around the complete feature, checked, rechecked with me, sent his Subedar Major, no, not the Subedar Major, sent one or two JSUs around, and we all confirmed that yes, Tololing is taken. He gave the report to the CEO. He said, "Sir, Tololing is taken," and that marked a very major phase in the Kargil. We had shown we could take it in one night. That means infantry battalion like us, any other infantry battalion can also achieve the same success. And this had also given a massive dent to the Pakistani side. They thought these heights could never be taken. Yes. Because you see, they've been attacking Siachen from 84 onwards, and they have no success there. So I spent some time cautiously moving around the defenses and reciting, encouraging my men wherever there was, we lost colleagues and this thing, consoling the people close to them, consoling the section, the platoon. We lost two JSUs also. Very, very sad. They'd come to my tent the night before. Where do we go? Do we go with you or do we go with the CEO? They were basically mortar JSUs, Bhavarlal and... Right. So I said, okay, you come with me and you go there. Both unfortunately died. Back to you.
Right. All right. Now we are on to the morning of 13th of June. Now, General Bajaj, what did you expect to find at the top? And what did you actually find?
That's a very good question. We expected, because we had recce'd and we had seen we expected to see coordinated defenses. But what I saw was, actually an eye-opener for me, and a learning point in history that, you must see the enemy for its brilliance also. They had beautifully sighted the defenses. Each bunker had a GPMG. They have a GPMG, a kind of a belt-fired machine gun, something between our LMG light machine gun and the medium machine gun. And they had AK-47s. So I walked around, and they had spare barrels for each GPMG. I walked around. I saw the GPMGs. I saw all the belts cleanly fired. That means the GPMGs were in great working condition.
Right.
Then I picked up the spare barrel wherever it had not been fired. It was spick and span. You saw through it. It was shining. It shows that the weapon craft of the Pakistanis is very good. I saw the night vision devices, which they had, American, very good quality, with a small sticker to it. A small sticker. If you're not satisfied with the performance of this, then please call up so-and-so at this base workshop in Pakistan. I saw maps. I saw paybooks. I saw the Pakistani soldier somewhat similar to the Indian soldier. We saw one letter. 8 NLI was the unit that fought against us, so the company against us. I saw a letter which said that, from a Jawan asking his company commander that could he be given the job of a company writer. He was doing the job of a company writer. He wanted to be remustered as a clerk. I said, this happens in our army too. I saw biscuits. I saw honey from their military farms, biscuits and various other things. Then, like I mentioned, their GPMG was a cross between a LMG and an MMG. So the Pakistanis have been able to evolve into a very value for money kind of equipment procuring. For example, their sleeping bags. Sleeping bags are critical on top. So we generally have two types. One is the cotton one, which is very, very comfortable to sleep on, fantastic. And one is the down jacket, the down one with inner and outer, which is very convenient to carry and brilliant on top. Both are excellent. The Pakistanis had only one in between. They had, a sleeping bag with a waterproof white covering. So it did both the jobs. It was not light, but it was able to be used. So I kept walking around like this, seeing these things. Of course, this was all while your mind was working towards turning the defenses towards their side, 5140, deploying people to see which side is the attack coming in from. And accordingly, all of this was the gamut. But we had given the call. Now came the job. Now came the what do we do next? Next is, firstly, as a attacking battalion or this thing, you never ever let go of the feature you have captured. That is your basic task now. So we ensured that it was done. I ensured that the best commanders, or the most who are still focused, were deployed outwards, seeing the attack. And the CEO was also doing the same thing. He did a chakkar, he did a full round across. Then we saw that the attack could build up from 5140. So relentlessly I pressed on the BCOP to the RT observation officer for my civilian friends to ensure that continuous fire would keep coming on to 5140, which he did. Then, we did all that. Then it was time to also get the men into this thing. We counted our dead, we counted our casualties. So the men, so a small snippet that I remember, that I was sitting down on top, exhausted. This is now around 9:30, 10. We were planning our next move, how to get our wounded down. So one of my boys from my company, I was a Delta company commander before I became the 2IC, came to me with an unexploded mortar shell in his hand. So he says, sir, mortar shell, yeah, RT shell, I think, 120 mm, maybe mortar. So he says, sir, look. I said, you've got an unexploded shell, you come up to us, you'll blow us all up. Don't drop it. He says, sir, look. I said, tell me. Pushpinder is the name. I said, tell me, Pushpinder. He says, sir, Pakistan ke to sare cell exploded. Hamara shell nahi hua. I said, Bhaiya, you do the following. You just go on to the reverse side and chuck this bomb. Please, don't argue. Just go. So he reluctantly turned and went. He was in a daze, and he chucked it. The moment it fell onto the reverse, this thing, I think in the second hit, it exploded. So these kind of snippets keep coming to you
Right.
as we see the whole thing. But anyway, back to the major factors. Now we got this feature.
Right.
The brigade headquarters was querying us for information. This thing, CEO told me to go down. He says, you take the wounded down. So now, how do we take the wounded down? At almost 15,500 feet under enemy shelling and this thing. We asked for AROP, the helicopters to come in. But such was the intensity of the firings, they recceed couple of times, they couldn't land. They would have landed in case they had even a small chance. But it was quite clear that the attack would be, that the shelling was such that the Hepters couldn't come. So finally, I decided, I said, these boys will die. A lot of boys had got severe injuries, bullet wounds, or they had partial limbs blown off, or they had stepped onto mines, legs blown off. So what do we do now? Now to get a guy down, it takes about 6 people. If I denuded the defenses on top, they would automatically start make us vulnerable to the attack, in counter-attack which comes. This was our criticality. So I said, but never mind, let's go down. In case you cannot, then let's carry them piggyback. So this is the fitness of our Jawans. Just imagine, thin, but all their lives running in the fields and whatnot. They picked up the guys. Some did a makeshift stretcher. Some did this thing. Some took them piggyback. Okay, I'll take you piggyback 300 meters. Next guy takes him piggyback 300 meters. Next guy takes him piggyback 300 meters. Then I saw another amazing thing. They sat down together. Somebody who's, I think, partial hand blown off or limb blown off. I don't remember the name. And they were having beedies. They all carry beedies. I said, don't smoke beedies there. Rarefied air as it is, there's no oxygen. So, but they didn't. They had their beedi, and they gave it to this boy also. He also sipped the beedi. And they kept going down and down and down and down. They got them to base. Whoever reached the FSC, credit to our doctors, survived. Indian Army surgeons are extremely good. They are extremely, extremely good. We are blessed that way,
Battles are won on maps. Victory is won by people. Tololing was not merely a military objective. It became belief restored. It became momentum regained. It became proof that impossible heights can still be climbed. And it turned out to be the turning point in the Kargil War. General Bajaj, thank you so very much for joining us today. Thank you not only for sharing memories, but for sharing your perspective. Because battles are remembered through dates, military operations through maps, victories through headlines. But history is truly understood through the people who lived it. Thank you very much.
Tonight, we revisited Tololing, not merely as a battlefield, but as a story of preparation, leadership, courage under impossible circumstances, and the extraordinary resolve of soldiers who kept moving forward when every advantage lay with the enemy. We spoke of planning, we spoke of sacrifice, and we spoke of loss. And we spoke of the spirit of 2 Rajputana Rifles, a battalion carrying nearly 2 centuries of history, tradition, and professional excellence. But perhaps the most important lesson Tololing leaves us with is that difficult battles are not won only by strength. They are won by preparation, leadership, teamwork, clarity under pressure, and above all, belief. To Major General Sandeep Bajaj, thank you for your service, sir. Thank you for your leadership. And thank you for helping us understand one of the most defining moments of the Kargil War. Ladies and gentlemen, This has been Tipsy Talks. Past battles, present conflicts, future wars. One conversation at a time. Jai Hind.